Good morning, church. It's so good to be here. I haven't seen you in so long. Oh my God. So I've been on a spiritual walkabout. Okay? So what that means is that I've been visiting other churches and I've been speaking. I was at Temecula. I was at Unity Carlsbad. I was at San Clemente. And, Spirit just told me to go out and do a spiritual walkabout. So that's what I've been doing. But I'm so happy to be back at home. You know how you go on a long trip and you love the trip, but you want to go back home. Okay. So today, my title is really strange. It's called, What Movie Are You Looking At? Okay? I'm not talking about streaming on TV or looking at your phone or computers. That's not what I'm talking about. So I want you to keep that title in your mind. What movie are you looking at? And I want to tell you a story. So about a week ago, I traveled to Washington, D.C. I went to the 38th convention of Narcotics Anonymous. Narcotics Anonymous is like AA. And I went because I'm in recovery. I went to my first Narcotics Anonymous World Convention 37 years ago. Now, this convention that I went to last week had 18,000 plus recovering addicts. 18,000 people all coming together to express joy about recovery. I stepped into that place and I was so excited. When I left home, I was excited because my first convention that I went to when I had 10 months clean, I didn't really know that this thing called recovery would work. If you know my story, you know that I was a functioning addict and alcoholic. I grew up with a dad who was a functioning alcoholic. So I didn't know anything about alcoholism or addiction. And so I didn't even know I had an addiction problem. But when I went to that first convention, I stepped in there and I saw people who had been experiencing some of the things that I had experienced. And I got it, that I could live my life without putting any kind of substance in my body. So I was thrilled last week when I went in. So I rushed into Washington, D.C., having the same mindset that I had 37 years ago. And something was off. Something was off. It just didn't feel right. It didn't feel like it felt 37 years ago. And I'm like, something's wrong with this convention. Something's wrong with these people. What is going on here? But I enjoyed myself. I ran around doing all the things that I did 37 years ago. Well, I'm not 35 years old. I'm 72 years old. So this body did not respond the way it responded when I was 35 years old. I stayed up all hours in the morning because they have what they call marathon meetings going 24 hours a day. I'd get up in the morning, I'd go all around, running all around, I'd stay up late, I wasn't eating right. I went from here at the house walking 1,000 steps a day to walking 11,000 steps a day. Come on now. 1,000 to 11,000 overnight, and you know what happened to my body. I got home. And when I got home, I was so tired. I picked up my car at the airport. I could barely walk. Got in my car. At the last stop sign, right, stop light, right there, Carlsbad, I stopped to take that left turn into the village. I fell asleep at the wheel. I was like, oh my God. You know how you stop, and I was like, oh my God, I went to sleep. Slept all day the next day. And when I woke up, it hit me. I had been looking at a movie of a rerun from my life of 37 years ago. What movie are you watching? I was not watching my life. I wasn't present at the convention that I went to. I was in a convention that occurred 37 years ago. And as a result, I was out of sync. I didn't feel at ease. I didn't feel peace of mind. I was blaming things around me because I was watching a different movie. Now, I'm going to date all of us in here. How many of you remember reruns? Come on, get them hands up. Reruns, remember back in the day? You look at a series, and they'd have a series, and then it would stop. And you'd have to wait like 3 months, 4 months, 6 months for the next ones to come. So you look at Lassie over and over again. You look at Bonanza over and over. You look at Gunsmoke over and over. You could even say what they were going to say because you were looking at reruns. And that's what I was doing. I was inside of a rerun. And that rerun was causing me not to be present in my life. So today, what I'm going to do is I'm going to share with you today and next week steps on what it takes for us to stop binge watching reruns out of our life. Because what happens to us, we get stuck in those reruns, not realizing that they're reruns, and it throws us out of peace and tranquility. And we spend all this time and this energy trying to find peace, trying to find tranquility, trying to be calm. And it's because we're not even present. Ernest Holmes tells us that when you change your thinking, you change your life. Well, I'm saying that when we stop binge watching those reruns of movies from our past lives, our lives will change. So we're going to examine 5 practices that help us create peace of mind and keep us from binge watching. The goal is to understand how to navigate through our life and stay present and current and relaxed and joyous and free. Joy is at our core. Love is at our core. But a lot of times, because we're not even present, we can't tap into it. So what happens to us when we're out of sync? These are some of the things. We begin to berate ourselves for not being able to fulfill what the mind says we should be doing. We berate ourselves. Now this is what we need to really get clear on. The mind doesn't distinguish between the past, the present, or the future. To the mind, it's just happening right now. So when we're running a movie that happened 35 years ago, the mind is going to work hard to make that movie come to life. That movie can't come to life because it is not happening right now. But the mind doesn't know that. So what it starts doing is saying, well, you used to be able to do that. How come you can't do that now? What's the matter with you? Berating ourselves. We blame our surroundings like I was blaming the conventions. What's wrong with this convention? These people don't know what they did. They didn't do this right. We start blaming that. Or we start playing that comparison game. You know how you compare your insides to someone else's outsides? Well, look at her, look at him. They look good. How come I don't look like that? Or you start comparing the 72-year-old with the 35-year-old. Well, how come I can't stay up to 3 o'clock in the morning? Why am I so tired? Why do my feet hurt? Why am I aching? Because you are not 35 years old. So what happens is that the mind starts working overtime. There's no peace of mind there. When the mind is trying to create something that does not exist, there is no peace there. There's anxiety, there's upset. So, we can create a peace of mind. And the 5 steps that I'm going to be sharing, 3 today and 2 next week. The first one is accepting what we cannot control. 2, staying focused on the here and now. 3, forgiving others and ourselves. 4, keeping track of our thoughts and emotions. 5, staying connected to Spirit or Mother Earth. So today, let us begin by examining what we cannot control. We cannot control the circumstances of our lives. But how many of us try? Come on, 2 hands, put your feet up. Life is unpredictable. But when we understand and know and accept that we cannot control it, what shows up? Peace. Peace shows up. And when we remember there's a power and a presence way greater than us that has got our back. that we live inside of love. When we understand that and when we're present to that, peace can show up. It doesn't matter what's going on around you. Now, I'm not saying that you won't be concerned about it, but I'm saying that you don't have to run and hold on to it and then grab something from the past, the way it used to be, and drag it into the present and try to make it work. It's natural to worry or be concerned about a loved one's illness or your own health or condition, or to be dismayed when you lose something. That's natural. But you don't have to let yourself go so far down that road that you don't have peace. You can have peace in the midst of a storm. And I want to share with you about a storm. My home is in Bermuda. And so I was inside of a Hurricane 5, a 5 hurricane the last time I was there. And everybody in the United States was losing their mind. Oh my God, are you okay? Are you okay? But what they don't understand is that in Bermuda, they know about hurricanes. Their houses aren't built out of wood. Their houses are built out of cement. They have storm windows that can survive 130 miles an hour wind. That's the standard. So that night, I went to sleep, just peaceful and calm. Because I understood and knew I had control over that hurricane. It was going to hit that island. What I had control over was how I was going to react. And I went to sleep. And when I woke up, everything was calm. And I'm like, oh my God, the hurricane's gone. My niece said, no, it's not gone. We're in the eye of the hurricane. I was like, what does that mean? She was like, well, the hurricane comes, and then part of it leaves, and then the eye just sits over the island for 4 hours. I'm like, so what happens next? The rest of the hurricane is going to come. Oh my God. She said, don't worry, it's fine. And it was fine. And that's how our life is. We have to remember, a challenge hits us, the eye. We can live inside the eye of the storm and know that when the rest of it comes, we'll get through it. Now, the second step, stay focused on the here and now. I was not focused on the here and now when I was in Washington, D.C. I was in New Orleans 37 years ago, looking for people that were in New Orleans. Some of those people are no longer here. They're gone. But it's natural to want to turn away from pain. That's just natural, or difficult situations. That's okay. But you stay focused on the here and now. One of the things that I learned is that pain is mandatory, suffering is optional. You're going to experience some pain, but you don't have to suffer inside of it. We only suffer inside of the pain when we try to make it go away. If you just allow yourself to go through it and then do whatever you need to do. I'm not saying don't try to find a solution to a physical pain or not seek help, but I'm saying that you don't have to suffer in silence or suffer trying to change something that is just out of your control. Another thing, instant gratification. We live in an instant gratification society. It is just blowing me away how TikTok has taken over the younger generations. Because that means that they can't wait for something to naturally occur. We grew up in a time where we didn't have to have things happen right now. But our society is saying to us, we need it right now. It's got to happen right now. If it's not happening right now, something is wrong. We have to remember, it doesn't have to happen like that. There's a process to everything. Look at nature. You don't put a seed in the ground and the plant, wake up the next day and it's a full-grown plant. Things have their own seasons. Things take time. And you have to remember not to terrorize yourself by watching those reruns of movies. I terrorize myself out of grace all the time. Grace is just here, and I terrorize myself out of it. Oh, you should be doing this, you should be doing that. Wake up in the morning in terror. Oh, you didn't do that, you didn't do that. All of that can be stopped simply by understanding, just be present. And the third step, practice forgiveness. Now, we hear this a lot, but one of the things I want to focus on today is forgiving ourselves. See, we are holding ourselves hostage to things that we think that we did not do. As we get older and we reflect back, sometimes it's like, well, you know, I should have done that when I was 30 years old, or I should have done that when I was da-da-da-da-da. And what happens is that we end up being angry at ourselves. We end up not being happy with where we are. But if you just say, you know what? I made the best decision that I could make with the information that I had at the time. That's what my mother used to tell me all the time. Whatever you do in the moment is the best you can do in that moment. Stop looking back and using hindsight. Right? They say 20/20 vision, looking back. When you look back, it's always because you have more knowledge now. But you can't go back and look at those decisions and say you should have done something different. Because you don't have the knowledge, you didn't have the knowledge then that you have the knowledge today. As we age, we slow down. Our thinking slows down. Our memory slows down. But we beat ourselves up because how can you not remember like you used to? Well, okay, something's going on with the mind. So just accept where you are and don't get yourself terrorized because it's not functioning today like it functioned before. Look yourself in the mirror and give yourself praises. When I wrote my book, I deliberately wrote a journal. I wrote a journal, it's called the Appreciate Me Journal, because particularly women, we don't appreciate ourselves. We don't just stop and appreciate ourselves. So every single day, I write down 5 things that I appreciate about myself. It helps me to remain present and it helps me to remember what I have accomplished. And it keeps me from going back saying what I didn't do, looking in the rearview mirror as I'm moving forward. I stopped using the measuring stick from the past to measure what's going on in the present. So today we looked at what we can control. Stay focused on the here and now. Practice forgiveness. Understand and know that we are living in a power and a presence that is always here. That we can have a peace of mind no matter what is going on. We do not have to rob ourselves of our tranquility because we're so focused on what's going on in the past. We can stand right here in the present and know that we are okay. So what I want you to do for this week, your homework, is I want you to begin to look at all of those reruns that you've been focusing on. Now I know you have a lot of them. Look at reruns from your health, from your wealth, from your relationships, just from your general life, from your outlook. What are you actually looking at? Are you looking at what's going on right now, or are you looking at something that happened years ago, trying to make it apply to today's life? When you come next week, we're going to go through the other steps, and we're going to end with you having a playlist, new movies to watch, so that as you move forward, and those old reruns start to run, you can say, no, and turn that channel off. And turn on your new playlist. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure being back with you. I add a blessing to you and a blessing to these words.